In this lesson, we'll discuss table layouts. Table layouts allow us to arrange our controls in a tabular arrangement with defined rows and columns, so we have an easy way of horizontally and vertically aligning our controls. We'll start with an empty vertical linear layout and add a table layout within it. The designer gives us some rows and columns and cells to drag controls into. We'll create a short entry form starting with name and address fields. So we'll put in some text labels in the first column for name and address. That one will be for name. And this one will be for address. And you can see already how the column changed with the width of the address. Now we'll add the text boxes next to them. And that's our first table. Now you'll note that the text boxes aren't very wide because they don't have any content to them. We could manually adjust the width, but that's not the preferred way of doing it. So for each one of the text boxes, we will change its weight. And you can see now they fill the remaining area in the row. Now if we take a look at the XML source, you can see that we have a table layout within our vertical layout, and we have a row that has a text view which is defined to be in column 0, and an edit text which is defined to be in column 1, and it has a layout weight of 1. Then we have a second row and the same text view and edit text arrangement. And then if you'll note in the designer, it still has a empty table row, and that's that third row there. So if we go back to the designer, we're going to use that third row, and we're going to add city and state fields. So again, we're going to put in a label for city. And then we'll put in our just plain text field. And then another text view for the state. And unfortunately, we don't have a spare column in the designer, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work in XML for this one. So we'll try to drag it over into the right area, and you'll note that it will end up below the table. So we'll go into the XML source and just cut that out of the area and put him in the table row that he belongs in. We'll take out the layout width and height, and we will add the column definition. So now when we go back to the designer, that's in the correct area. And if we set our text box weights equal to 1, they will fill out the width of the form quite nicely. So that's a pretty decent looking form overall. But let's see if we can do something else. I'm going to take the weights off of these text boxes, and we're going to arrange them a little bit differently. So they'll go back to their small natural version. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just manually adjust the width of these bottom boxes. Now what I really want is for the name and address text boxes to go all the way across the table and fill up the third and fourth column. And I can do that by adding an attribute to each one of those text boxes. And that attribute is Android layout underscore span, and we're going to set that equal to 3 columns, the existing column plus the 2 blank ones. And we're going to do that on both of the text boxes. And when I go back to the designer, you can see that it spreads themselves off. So that's the basics of how to use a table layout. And you can add rows to the table layout at runtime as well as at design time. The next lesson, we're going to take a look at relative layouts.